Mary Aldred is the federal MP for Monash in Victoria and the co-chair of the Coalition's task force on illicit tobacco. Now, the Coalition in Canberra are having a red-hot look at the excise at the moment with arguments from a lot of MPs that it needs to be cut. She's on the line for us this morning. Mary, thanks for your time.
Great to be joining you, James.
You would have looked at this, and I mean, whether it was cigarettes or another tax, we surely can't have a tax that's working in this way that collected $16 billion in 2020, is now collecting not even half of that and is worth $1.50 per cigarette stick. I mean, the tax system isn't meant to work this way.
It's not, James, and this issue is out of control. As you said, we're losing up to $10 billion in lost excise tax that could have gone towards funding roads, schools and hospitals. We're not addressing the key aim of an excise tax as well as generating revenue, which is to deter people from smoking, and crime is out of control. We've got the proceeds of this illegal market going towards bikie gangs, criminal gangs, and in one case, terrorist groups as well.
How much do you believe the excise should be cut by?
Well, look, we've looked at some modelling on this. Oxford Economics have put a figure of 30%, which would generate about $3 billion directly back into revenue because you'd be clawing back that illegal market. But I also think there's a strong argument here that it is so out of control in Australia, we need to have a circuit breaker, we need to have a game changer. And so there's also an argument for up to 50%, which my colleague, Senator Richard Colbeck, who's co-chair of this committee, and I are looking at the moment as well. So
if the excise was cut, the issue here is that illegal cigarettes are now often available for between $10 and $15. If you cut the excise by 30 or 50%, that's going to take a fair chunk off that average price of $50, $55 for a pack of legal smokes, but there's still going to be a price gap there.
There will be, James, and we're never going to get, unless you remove it altogether, you're never going to get price parity with illegal cigarettes, but you will close that gap. And we're talking to a lot of people around Australia, parents, people who smoke who don't want to be buying from the illicit to market, because in the case of people that order their cigarettes online, they know they're giving their credit card details and their home address to organised crime. They don't want to be in that situation. So it would close the gap substantially. It would bring back that lost excise. It would help fill that black hole in the budget, and it would stop funding organised crime. As I say, the rates of smoking in Australia have not fallen, and if they had, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If there was no black market, we'd be saying, well, we've defeated big tobacco, we've run the big guys out of town because fewer people are smoking. That is not the case, and the secondary issue is, of course, the vapes, which are a major concern amongst young people. But at the same time, you're going to have a very powerful lobby and a lot of groups that talk common sense and do very good work, including cancer charities, cancer advocacy groups that have previously said you cannot cut the excise. How are you going to manage that? So, number one, we're losing the battle on people quitting smoking. Western Australia, for the first time in 30 years, has seen an uptick in smoking rates. If you look at the Criminal Intelligence Wastewater Report, there's now more nicotine in the water today than there was 8 years ago. So those facts alone show that the current policy settings are just not working. Yes, there are a number of public health people that do great work that take a very prohibitionist position on this issue, and effectively we do have prohibition at the moment through that tax because it is driving a lot of this behaviour. But there's also some other really good academic work. James Martin, who does a lot of work in black market economies, he's a criminologist. He has said the excise issue is driving people to the black market. We've had very prominent health advocates like Nick Coatsworth, the former Deputy Chief Health Officer, saying we've got to have a change in policy here on the excise. So I think we're building momentum here for a case. We've got to build momentum. We've got to change the policy settings, because everyday Australians going about their lives at the moment are being put at risk of ram raids, fire bombings, all of the associated crime that you're seeing with this issue. And people I talk to have had enough. Grocery stores are sick of having their staff assaulted in cigarette thefts. They're worried about selling legal cigarettes, and the end result of that will be more and more legal retailers will say, you know what, we're not going to sell cigarettes in Australia anymore. The global average of the illegal market is about 14%. In Australia, it's about 60%. So we've got to change our thinking, James.
Yeah, rising on the way up. Mary, just lastly before you go, why do you think Labor and Jim Chalmers, this is a Treasury issue ultimately because it is linked to the excise, why aren't they taking this seriously and putting this on the table? What do you suspect is going on here?
Well, I think they've A, got their head in the sand, but B, they've painted themselves into a corner. So you had the Assistant Customs Minister, Julian Hill, say, yep, it is a problem. It is driving this issue. But Jim Chalmers has painted himself into a corner by saying he's not going to change the excise tax. So I think they need to swallow their pride, realise we have got a problem that's out of control and change the policy.
Mary, we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, James.